Behaviors that trigger avoidant attachment styles in your partner. In relationships, we often act with good intentions, wanting to connect, to feel close, to be loved back the way we love. But sometimes the very behaviors we believe will bring us closer end up pushing our partner away, especially if they have an avoidant attachment style. It can feel like walking through a minefield. One misstep, and the emotional walls go up, the communication shuts down, and you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? Understanding the behaviors that trigger avoidant partners is not about blaming yourself or them. It's about seeing the hidden emotional blueprint they carry and learning how to love in a way that feels safe for both of you. Today, we'll walk into the quiet inner world of avoidant attachment and reveal the common behaviors that make them retreat, distance themselves, or even disappear, so that you can shift the dynamic from one of fear to one of trust. One of the first behaviors that often trigger avoidant responses is constant emotional closeness without space. While that might sound strange, after all, isn't intimacy the goal? For avoidance, too much closeness too fast sets off internal alarms. It's not that they don't want connection, it's that they fear losing themselves within it. If you're always texting, asking for attention, or initiating deep conversations too frequently, they may begin to feel overwhelmed. Their mind doesn't interpret closeness as safety. It interprets it as pressure, as a loss of independence. So ironically, the more you reach, the more they retreat. What they need instead is breathing room. Moments where the relationship can breathe without intensity so they don't feel emotionally smothered. Another behavior that triggers avoidant partners is what seems like emotional interrogation. Repeatedly asking, "What's wrong?" Or, "Do you love me?" Or, "Why won't you open up?" These questions come from a place of insecurity or care, but to the avoidant mind, it feels invasive. It's as if their emotional privacy is being pried open with force. Many avoidants learned early in life that their feelings weren't safe to express. They were either ignored, criticized, or made to feel weak for needing support. So when you try to get inside their emotional world before they're ready, it doesn't deepen trust. It reinforces the belief that closeness equals pressure. The better approach is emotional modeling, being calm, emotionally grounded, and inviting, but not demanding. When they feel emotionally safe and not monitored, they'll slowly let you in on their own terms. Something else that can make avoidance emotionally pull away is talk about the future, especially when it comes too early. Asking, "Where is this going?" or talking about moving in, having kids, or long-term plans before they feel stable in the present moment can overwhelm them. It's not because they don't care about the relationship, it's because future talk threatens their core need for autonomy. They fear being trapped, losing their freedom, or making promises they aren't emotionally ready to make. They've often built their lives around self-protection, and when you introduce long-term expectations, it can feel like they're being absorbed into someone else's timeline. To keep them emotionally present, try to focus on the now. Build moments of trust today. Paradoxically, the less you force the future, the more they begin to imagine one with you. Another thing that triggers avoidance is the emotional fallout that happens when they pull away. For example, if your partner starts to withdraw and your response is to panic, text relentlessly, demand answers, or get angry, it confirms their belief that closeness creates drama. Avoidants are hypersensitive to emotional intensity, especially when it's coming from another person. When they retreat, they often do so to self-soothe, not to punish you. But if their distancing leads you into protest behaviors, like sending long emotional messages or threatening to leave, you've accidentally stepped into a reinforcing cycle. They pull back, you chase, they shut down more. The antidote: stillness. When they pull back, let them. Stay grounded, care for yourself, and don't react with emotional fire. When you show emotional regulation, they start to feel like the relationship is a safe place, not a battlefield. Another triggering behavior is pressuring them to be emotionally vulnerable before they feel safe. Avoidants can love deeply, but they often feel that emotions are dangerous or burdensome. If you try to make them share everything, express feelings on cue, or match your emotional openness, they may shut down. They're not trying to be cold. They're trying to survive. Vulnerability to them is risky because they've often been punished or disappointed when they opened up in the past. Instead of trying to pull vulnerability out of them, invite it. Share your feelings calmly, then give them space to respond in their own way. Create emotional safety by being non-reactive. When they sense that emotions are not traps but bridges, they'll eventually meet you there. Something that often causes avoidance to retreat is emotional inconsistency. This one can be especially confusing because you may not even realize you're doing it. If you alternate between being loving and being distant, or if you withdraw affection to punish them or get a reaction, it confirms the avoidance worst fear, that love is not dependable. Many people try to mirror an avoidant partner's distancing to protect themselves, but this can backfire. Avoidants don't respond well to games, even subtle ones. If they sense that your affection is conditional, they'll disengage. What creates safety for them is calm consistency, showing that you can be stable even when they wobble. It's not about never having boundaries, it's about not using distance or unpredictability as a form of control. Another behavior that triggers avoidance is over-explaining emotions, especially during conflict. Many people feel the urge to talk things through immediately, to resolve tension through discussion, but avoidants often process emotions internally and slowly. If you try to talk it all out when they're not ready, it can feel like emotional suffocation. They're not avoiding resolution, they're trying to regulate before they engage. Give them time. Let them come back when they're grounded. And when they do, keep things calm and to the point. Emotional safety for them often looks like quiet, not volume, brevity, not long monologues. If you master the art of timing, you'll find they're more willing to communicate than you once believed. One more thing that deeply affects avoidance is when they feel misunderstood or judged for needing space. People often label avoidance as cold, distant, or selfish, which only deepens their shame. When you respond to their distancing with blame or name-calling, you're confirming the narrative they already fear, that relationships hurt, that intimacy leads to criticism. If you want to shift the dynamic, change the story. When they take space, respect it, not as rejection, but as a form of self-care. Validate their need for independence without making it personal. That emotional maturity can open doors to connection that judgment never will. Avoidant attachment is not about a lack of love. It's about a fear of losing oneself in love. The behaviors that trigger them are often rooted in their own unmet needs and childhood defenses, not in your worth or value. But when you become aware of these triggers, you unlock a kind of emotional intelligence that makes the relationship more peaceful, more balanced. You don't have to shrink yourself, silence your needs, or walk on eggshells, but you do need to lead with awareness. Loving an avoidant requires patience, but not passivity. It requires clarity, but not control. And most of all, it requires you to become the emotional anchor, not just for them, but for yourself. Because at the end of the day, the more secure you become, the safer they will feel to come out from behind their walls. And sometimes that's all an avoidant partner ever needed. Someone who doesn't chase, doesn't pressure, but simply stays steady and present, like a quiet invitation to love that doesn't demand, only welcomes.